Hello class, this is Demetrius Wilson again, and this is the Chapter 2 lecture, Self-Concept and Self-Esteem in Human Relations. Very, very important in human relations to have appropriate level of self-esteem and also to understand your self-concept and what you think about yourself and what you think others think about you really does matter, and it does actually affect your self-esteem. And we'll get into that throughout this chapter. So our learning objective. So as always, through each one of these 15 or 16 lectures that we go through, we're going to have learning objectives. As I stated in chapter 1, it's good to know what you're attempting to learn before you actually go into the process of learning. So our learning objectives are: define self-concept, identify the 4 areas of self-concept, describe the real and ideal selves, right? So you want to know what your real self is and what's your ideal self. Who are you striving to be? Explain the importance of pleasing yourself and others. A lot of times younger people struggle with that, where they're attempting to please others. But those of us who are a little bit older understand that completely flies out the window later on in life and is oh so unimportant. So additional learning objectives: define self-esteem, discuss the relationship between self-esteem and work performance, and there's a very deep correlation between the two. Distinguish among different types of self-esteem and explain the origins of your own self-esteem. So our self-concept, it's the way you picture yourself to be. Very explanatory in regards to the definition. So it's just the way that you picture yourself to be. This is who I picture that I am. So one funny concept that I always allude to is that I leave a message on a voicemail or somebody's answer machine, and you typically don't hear it. But what if you're over somebody's house and you actually hear your own voice? Do you ever think that's how you really sound? I never think. Whenever I hear them, I say, "Oh man, is that how I really sound?" I say it every time. The foundation of all your thoughts about yourself, including self-esteem, right? So all of the thoughts that you have about yourself, including your self-esteem, are rolled up into your self-concept. And it's affected by your everyday actions, right? So if you have a high or a healthy dose or level of self-esteem, your actions will definitely be different than the actions of someone whose self-esteem is very, very low. 4 parts of the self-concept, which you can see are all kind of intertwined. You have your ideal self, your looking glass self, your self-image, and your real self. And that's really a great concept that we're about to review. Like I said earlier, your ideal self is who you strive to be. And then one of the other selves says, okay, this is a self that I believe people picture me to be. And this is who I truly am, right? And who are you truly when nobody's around, right? So when nobody's in the room, who are you truly? Are you still that person when everybody else is in the room? So the ideal self, the way one would like to be or plans to become. A conditional positive regard, so parents give children a picture on how to win approval. So ideal self is the way someone would like to become, and we should all have an ideal self. None of us are a finished product. We should continue to strive to do better. But conditional positive regard means that I'm only going to give you approval if you do certain things. That's conditional. What you should have is unconditional positive regard, especially when you're dealing with children. So your love is unconditional, right? So when you deal with your employees, if you have unconditional positive regard, whether they do well or whether they mess up, you still love them just the same. And I know it's hard to do that sometimes if people consistently mess up at work, but you have to figure out a way to have some type of positive regard for everyone. So the looking glass self. This is a self one assumes others see him or her, right? So you know what a looking glass is? Imagine yourself inside the looking glass, and this is what you imagine that people are looking on the outside saying, oh, this is Demetrius, this is student ABC. Your self-image is the way we honestly feel about oneself, right? So not really low self-esteem saying, oh, I'm not that great, or not, really super high self-esteem saying, I can fly like Superman and I'm faster than Flash, but just the way you honestly feel about yourself. And your real self is the way one really is when nobody is around to approve or disapprove, right? So how would you get up and dress, and what would you do around the house if nobody else was around, right? If you had to go to work and nobody else was there, would you still dress up? Would you still dress the same, right? I've been in a sales environment before, and I know individuals that, have, subscribed to the notion that you perform in the manner in which you dress. So they would always dress up and come to work whether somebody was there or not, because they felt good, and it came through on their presentation over the phone to their prospective clients. So focusing on the real and ideal selves. So according to Carl Rogers, ideal self comes from the messages received from your parents and people around you, what you should be like. Just think about it. You can think back to your childhood and how you were raised and the things that you tried to strive for, and you'll still see those in your everyday life today. For a healthy self-concept, pay more attention to messages about your real self, adjust the ideal self to fit the reality, and work up to a more realistic and attainable ideal. So, later on in these chapters, we'll talk about SMART goals, and if you're looking for your real self or your ideal self to be something that's just unachievable, then that's not SMART either. So SMART goals, one of the thing is that it's realistic, right? So set a realistic goal for yourself. So pleasing yourself and pleasing others. You have a healthy self-concept, not being a slave to other people's opinions. So I know when I was younger, I worried a lot about what other people thought about me. Now, not even close, right? It's totally different at work. Whether people like me or dislike me, I'm perfectly okay with that. I'm perfectly okay with their opinion. As a younger person, I didn't realize. I was like, hey, I feel like I'm doing everything right. Why would this person not like me? But you know what? Everybody's not going to like you, and they're entitled to their opinion. And me, I'm perfectly fine with that. It took a little while to learn and understand that, but I understand it now, and I'm perfectly okay, and I love them all just the same. Balance the needs to nurture self and other people's needs. So it's not to say that you just say, I don't care about anybody else's needs. Still care about their needs, but you definitely want to go too far out of your way changing yourself and changing what you're doing for someone else, especially if they don't care. Proper care of real self is possible when self-concept is set and stable at a comfortable level, right? So you get your self-concept down, nice and comfortable, your self-esteem is nice and comfortable, and everything else kind of falls into place. So self-esteem, that's the regard in which an individual holds himself or herself, right? How is your self-esteem? Is it high? Is it low? Typically people who have lower self-esteem need to, talk to somebody or read a good book that says, hey, you know what? I should have better self-esteem and I should feel good about myself. I know it sounds real gimmicky, but you really should feel good about yourself. The extent to which an individual believes himself or herself to be capable, sufficient, and worthy. Are you capable? Yes, you are. Are you sufficient? Yes, you definitely are. Are you worthy? 100%. Just know that. Described as high or low, higher is healthy, right? Now do people sometimes have too high self-esteem? Definitely. Sometimes it's good to, if you get it up too high, to kind of, have somebody, to help you to level it and bring it down. But if it's a choice between too high and too low, then we're going to go with the too high. Compensating is the use of a strength to make up for a real or perceived weakness, right? So you're really good at something, and earlier in chapter 1 I said, I talked about playing towards someone's strengths, and that's fine, but compensating something different. When you use a strength to make up for a real or perceived weakness, you're trying to cover up that weakness. So if you say, hey Demetrius, you didn't have any rebounds last night. I say, hey, but I had 30 points. But the discussion is about my rebounds. So it's a real, weakness, right? Or even if it's a perceived weakness. So we're discussing my rebounding. We're not discussing my points. But I am compensating by bringing up the points because I don't want people to bring attention to the fact that I didn't get any rebounds. So self-esteem lowers self-worth. Individual believes himself or herself to have little value, to offer to the world. And that's not true, right? You have plenty of value to offer to the world. You have plenty talent, skills, and abilities, some that you know of, some that you're very fond of, and some that you don't even know of yet. Lower self-esteem, individuals are unable to see themselves as capable, sufficient, or worthy, but you need to be able to change that. So if you do have low self-esteem, and hopefully none of you do, but if you do, you got to fix it, right? Higher self-esteem, people have healthy feelings about themselves. You feel good about yourself. You wake up in the morning. Now, I know some of you guys aren't morning people. I definitely am. But if you are, jump out of bed, jump up and click your heels like the Toyota commercial. I love what you do for me. And if you're not, hey, ease out of bed a few minutes earlier, and then get your attitude and your self-esteem straight, and go on about your day. It increases the likelihood to succeed in personal goals and your career. And that makes sense. Their self-esteem is directly linked to success. You won't see a lot of CEOs or vice presidents with low self-esteem walking around the office with their head down. Self-esteem and work performance. So people with lower self-esteem have anxiety and depression, irritability and aggression, feelings of resentment and alienation, unhappiness and insomnia, can't even sleep. People with healthy self-esteem have open and ready for new experiences, like, hey, let's try something new. I'm open to it. Useful and adaptable at work. You can good for change. Objective and constructive in problem tackling. So if there's a problem, hey, let's figure out how to fix it. Let's not talk about the bad stuff. And valuable and satisfied employees. So that list for people with lower self-esteem and people with healthy self-esteem looks very, very different. Types of self-esteem. So feelings about self-worth, you have positive and negative, and that's pretty obvious, right? So you have positive self-esteem or you have negative self-esteem. Now, self-efficacy is a very, very important topic to understand. So it's the confidence an individual has in his or her ability to deal with problems. So there are problems in the workplace, problems at home, problems at school. Can you deal with them? Yes, you can. That's self-efficacy, right? So if you have the confidence that you can have the ability, or that you do have the ability to deal with problems, that is where you need to be. You don't need to have low self-efficacy where you don't have confidence that you can fix the problems that come about in life. Origins of self-esteem, unconditional positive regard, we talked about that earlier. Acceptance of individuals as worthy and valuable regardless of their behavior. So no matter what they do, we still accept you as individuals that are worthy. And you're just accept you as a human being. People make mistakes, people mess things up, but we have to work them through the process. Conditional positive regard is acceptance of individuals as worthy only when they behave in a certain way. So if you're my sales manager and your team only sells 1,000 widgets and you're supposed to sell 2,000, then I give you the cold shoulder and I don't talk to you during that month, right? You didn't hit your goals, I'm not going to talk to you. And that's not the way it should be. Now, yeah, definitely there should be some counseling and some discussions about turning things around and hitting your goals, but you don't change your attitude. And as managers, if your attitude goes with the sales or goes with the service or goes with the performance, then you have to figure out how to adjust and how to change that. Origins of self-esteem. So you see the parent, unconditional positive regard to a child equals healthy self-esteem. But if a parent has conditional positive regard, oh, you didn't take out the trash, you didn't score 20 points in the game, then they're going to end up having low self-esteem, right? I have to be careful about that, especially with my daughters. My daughter runs track, and she can run, win the race, and what do I look at? What do I see? I say, oh, you could have ran faster. You could have done this better. But that comes from the sport environment and the coaching that I had when I was younger. Things are a little bit different these days, and I understand that you have to have that unconditional positive regard for everyone, especially for children. And we're only going to get to this last one. You have to read slides 16, 17, 18 on your own. So steps towards achieving higher self-esteem: learn to accept yourself, develop an internal locus of control, develop a winning skill, Study confident people and read biographies of people you admire. Make a list of your greatest talents. Stop procrastinating and find a mentor. Avoid surface analysis of yourself and others. Use positive self-talk. Great video that we have on that. And don't forget the needs of others. So remember, you have 3 additional slides to review, 16, 17, 18. Read your chapter. Have a good day and a great week, everyone.